The dance program offers a course called the Freshman Repertory Project. And in this year, I was the teacher of record for that course, and I selected to stage this work, the Birdwomen of the Lonely Fjord, on the first-year students, which I believe we had 26 or 27. And I actually originally made the work at the Ohio State University, where I was doing my graduate studies, and I was interested in the idea of how site-specific choreography really changes the feeling and the experience of a given site after a piece of art has been made in that area. And so I thought this would be a great piece to bring to life in the COFAC. And so I was able to reimagine it all throughout the first semester with the students. And then Diana Hoover, who's essentially the curator for COFAC Creates this year, proposed the idea of place, the idea or visions of place as the theme for COFAC Creates. And I thought, really, I'm doing exactly that. I'm reimagining space and considering how space creates place, and whether it's in our memory through experience, or whether it's through physicality in the body, or through the transformation of a place by having a dance appear in it. So I reached out to Diana, who thought it would be a great idea to include this project as part of the COFAC Creates series. I was playing with ideas of migration, and so not only the migration of birds, but the migration of people, and essentially how migration is about pattern, that we notice migratory patterns by tracking how animals or birds or people move through spaces. And so that was the primary inspiration. And then I love this building so much. The COFAC is so beautiful and really similarly designed to the space that I was entranced by in Ohio, and thought how it served as such a beautiful environment, a background, if you will, for dance, and the sort of hardness of the concrete versus the softness and the subtlety of the body. So that was the primary inspiration. And from there, we began to create this world. And to me, the open space of the concrete and the starkness and perhaps a little bit of the coldness of the space reminded me of the edge of cliffs or fjords and things like that. And from there, we developed a whole sort of mythology, a mythological creature that would inhabit this space, and that we call the Birdwomen. So half human, half bird. And so we began to develop a movement that was reflective of birds and interactions and patterns of passing through space that are then highlighted by smaller duets and solos and trios that are about intimacy and togetherness, and to look at something so small in the wide open vastness of the courtyard of the NFAC was so beautiful to me. And then to think from that place, to think about how music could complement and support that environment. So we wanted the music to be environmental rather than imposed on. So natural sounds of birds chirping and singing to each other that would blend so beautifully into some more traditional classical pieces of music. And I also very much love the sound of a single woman's operatic voice. So we searched for some music like that related to ideas of loneliness and solitude and journey. So these are some of the other images that came to mind as we were making the work. And then, also migration is about time. And so I was interested in developing a piece that was of a significant length, and for the students to be able to invest in what that means to sustain their energy and their character and their relationships over the course of 50 or 60 minutes, but also for the audience to really see how the space transforms, how the dancers transform, how ideas transform over a significant period of time. Yeah, well, in some ways it was awesome, and in other ways, of course, there were challenges. We spent most of last semester, the fall semester, in the studio, just building material, and the students, because the piece was, I had made it before, they were learning sequences off of a video, and then once we had the base material learned, we began to change and augment it for their body and for really the ideas that were coming forward in this iteration, rather than just replicating what was going on. So that was the pleasure of being in the studio, just learning the material. Then when it was time to start organizing people in space, we tried to get out to the courtyard as much as we could. We had a smaller showing, or a more and less formal showing at the end of the fall semester, so we were able to be out in the courtyard. We hadn't quite finished the piece in the first semester, and then we finished it in the second semester. There's something about it for me that was the excitement in not getting out there so often was the role that discovery played. Like every time we had the opportunity to go out there, we'd see the space in a different way, and we'd find a little nook or a little secret spot that we could put a piece of movement in that just made us see the space in a new way. So that process of discovering, both for me as the choreographer and I think for the dancers, was really important, because there's a lot of interaction and a lot of relationships that happen that the audience never sees, because the dancers are really continually passing through and running around the building in order to get to where they need to be for their next visible dancing spot. So the students were able to discover new parts about the space as well throughout the rehearsal process. Well, I try to really respond to what's happening in the world around me. So Dance Stage just closed this past weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and I made a work called The Biggest Whale from the Bottom of My Heart, which was really my response to what's happening in our world right now. So I think the core theme in a lot of what I do is revealing our potential for human connection and for human interaction. So that, even as something as metaphoric or abstract as the Birdwomen, that it really is about intimacy and relationship. And so whether I'm creating a character-driven work, or if that's narrative in its construct, or something purely and completely abstract that might just be an awesome dance to a beautiful piece of music. I think our sense of humanness as people, that dance is about human expression, and I'm always searching for ways to better express myself, more clearly express myself, and for the dancers to embody their true vulnerability and spirit in their dancing. I think it has so many facets that often places an imagined, or could be an imagined reality in our minds, right? So our imagination helps us create place. That the idea of memory, I don't know if we can always trust our memories to be true, that we remember how we want something to be, and that creates a beautiful sense of place. I think place is like there's something concrete about it, right? A defined space, a built space. That place, or how space, I guess for me, transitions into place is through habitation. How we migrate or pass through, how we, create indelible marks, as we live and create patterns and repetition and engagement with certain aspects of buildings and architecture and nature and home, right? How space becomes place and place becomes home. They're all fascinating ideas to try, and I try to figure those things out physically. For me, so often place is associated with a physical engagement with whatever's around me at that time.